So good morning, everyone. Whoop, that's dramatic. Thank you. Appreciate that. I wanted to start off with a bang, obviously. I have a good friend. She's still a friend, even though she's not in this world already, and I see her beloved husband out there, Janaki Devi, who one time up in Seattle, where I spent many decades in the community there, came up to do a Sunday service talk, and she said, I woke up this morning and I thought, I am so lucky I get to talk about God today. And so I always remember that. I haven't done a talk up here since I have been up here for I don't know how many years, but many times when I do other kinds of programs, I think of that, and what a joy it is, of course, that we speak about our beloved. So today's topic, did we introduce ourselves? I don't know that we did. Let me start again. We'll start several times today. And that's okay because it's spring, right? We're starting a new season. I want to welcome everyone here, both those here in the temple and here at Ananda Village, our guests at our retreats here, and those online. I am Nayaswami Amrita, and this is Nayaswami Indra Devi. We're both here to welcome you, and so glad that you're here. And I want to say just a special welcome to our virtual community members. And just knowing that you're out there fills my heart with joy. It's our largest community with over 300 people. So to those in the virtual community who are tuning in now or watching later, there's a special place in our hearts for you because you are pinpoints of this light around the world who are helping to bring more light into the world by your very efforts to grow and to attune. So this is a beautiful topic and one that I can't encompass fully, but I'm very happy to share some thoughts on some of the things that occurred to me as I read it and considered it over the days in the past. And but I'm going to need my glasses here. So this reading tells us that we're children of light, children of God. And Yogananda, our guru here at Ananda, tells us in one of his books that our true homeland is infinity. Our true lifespan is eternity. And he also would often say to the disciples around him when he was in the body, I see you all as light. You have no idea how beautiful you are. And yet we sometimes lose that sense of that light, don't we? And the world around us can often reinforce the thought that we aren't children of light, that we are limited, that we are our mistakes. I mean, right now, if you just read the news, which I try not to do, but still do a bit, you see people accusing each other right and left, just of their faults and of their shortcomings, which creates an environment of even greater disharmony. But there's just great disharmony in the world right now, and it's very tempting to go towards the negative side. When we talk about sin, there's a sweet little story of Yogananda where and I don't know the exact circumstances, did he invite this person to come speak at Mount Washington? Did he go to a revivalist meeting? Was it a small gathering or a large? But he was at some kind of a revival meeting, and the preacher said, "You're all sinners, get down on your knees." And he said he looked around and he was the only one left standing. And it can be a sort of a humorous story in a way. He was recognizing the soul's potential, and that, as this reading says, and that he said we should never call ourselves sinners and identify that. We want to identify with our potential. We want to identify with the light. But in thinking about that story a little bit in the days past, I also thought he was like an astronaut, going up onto the moon or whatever and planting a flag. He was planting a flag for this consciousness, for Dwapara Yuga, this understanding that we are a part of God, that we are made of the very same substance as God is, and that we are simply finding our way back to that full remembrance. In the Vedic teachings, the process of awakening is spoken of as smriti, divine memory, peeling the onion, peeling away the layers of misunderstanding, of karmas, of desires and attachments that have covered up this clear feeling of ourselves as one with the light. And we are very blessed to have this understanding that Yogananda brought and that he was sent to bring, that the deepest teachings of all religions, and especially the deepest teachings of yoga and of Christianity, hearken to that, hearken to the fact that our true homeland is in God and in God's light. And that we have techniques, we have ways, scientific techniques that can help bring us from misunderstanding to the deeper, the greater, the complete understanding of ourselves as children of the light. This reading gives us a couple clues, and I have to pardon me, I'm going to have to put my glasses on at this point. One of those clues is, well, I started thinking about what are the ways that we can tap into this understanding that we are all light. How do we cultivate that in our lives? And I thought that the reading today and also the affirmation give some beautiful clues. And I want to thank Indra Devi for reading so beautifully. Even as she was reading, I got some new insights. And so one of the clues that this reading gives us is to live in the thought that we have God already, to not bemoan our shortcomings, the faults that we see in ourselves, how far we might have to go. There's a beautiful story of Yogananda. It's a dream that he had, I believe, where he dreamt he was in a very hot and crowded city, and he saw a wall and didn't know what was behind that wall, and he saw some people go up to the wall. And one person hoisted another one up, and they went over, saw the top of the wall, what was over there, and said, "Oh," and leapt over and stayed there. And then there were two other people. I think the second one helped the next one up, and the same thing happened. "Oh," and they leapt over. And then, there was only one person that, I guess in this dream it was Yogananda, and he somehow, through his strength of will, got himself up and saw that what was on the other side was this beautiful garden. And he also saw beyond that a mountain. And I believe actually the garden was on top of the mountain. And he said, "Oh, it's so beautiful, but it's so far." And then he thought, I can do this all with God's help. If I just put one foot in front of the other, I can get there. And that is the way. But within that, as we're striving for that, to think that we have God already, this whole understanding of God as our Father, our Mother, that we are little children, is such a beautiful, touching, and true one. And I know when I think of Yogananda and his most advanced disciple, Rajasi Janakananda, who was a self-made millionaire at a time when being a millionaire was like being a billionaire now, a very successful businessman, owned his own golf course. It's sort of like on his land, his estate, president of many companies, et cetera, et cetera. And yet, Yogananda called him his little boy. And he felt that way in relationship to Yogananda, his guru, his doorway onto the infinite. And it's talked about that they walked hand in hand through the grounds of his hermitage, just like little children, talking, sharing in the joy of God. And this understanding that we can live in the thought that we have God now is a powerful one. So what are the ways that we can do that? I think myself that for me, one of the most powerful ways is what we call practicing the presence of God, of bringing God with me wherever I go. And for me, I too think of my guru. To me, he's that doorway into the infinite. But I also think of my Divine Mother, and will often talk to her throughout the day and often say, okay, Divine Mother, what's next? What have you got on the docket for me now? And especially talk to her also when I lose things too. Where is it, Divine Mother? Because she's my mother. She finds things for me, and of course we're always counseled not to be thinking of God as our servant in that way. And it's not that, it's just as a loving mother with a child who's maybe a little forgetful. She's ever gracious, and it ever helps me to remember what I need to remember. But I know many people in this community have very sweet ways of communing with God like that. And I think of one person I know who's actually here who continually says, I love you, God. I love you, God. What a sweet way to go through the day, and how that brings that presence. Seekers of God find him dwelling in their own hearts. And when we call out to God in that way, our Father, our Mother, with that sincerity, how can they help but respond? I know people who've done very sweet things, and I think there's another person in this room who does this on her watch. I was with her, I don't know how long ago. Oops, there goes my remembering God chime every hour. I had a friend who in her office, she was a scientist, but she worked in such a place where it wasn't appropriate for her to have photos of the masters around, but she would have a wind chime just above her door so that anytime someone opened the door, she would think of God. And that brought that sense of the presence of God near to her all the time. Another thing that I've found to be so sweet and helpful in these last couple of years, it's something I've known about for a very long time, but didn't tune into in the same way until I started working with our lessons in meditation, our online course in meditation some years ago when I arrived, and that is the 8 aspects of God: peace, wisdom, power or energy, love, calmness, sound, light, and joy. And today we're maybe talking particularly about light, but all of them, when we bring these into our lives, it can transform us and can transform our experience of life. Bring that to us. We can think of God as our Father and Mother, but these other aspects, although they might seem more impersonal, are part of the fabric of who we are as beings. And I remember, I don't know how many years ago it was, that it was part of, I think it was Spiritual Renewal Week, perhaps. There's somebody in the back of the room who probably knows exactly when this was. A set of cards was made up with each of these qualities that people could use. And I remember Jyotish talking about, he's so creative. We're so blessed with our spiritual directors because they're always themselves coming up with creative ways to work with our teachings that they share with us then to keep us inspired. He was picking a card each day and carrying it in his pocket. And for instance, if it was sound, he would think, okay, how is God going to manifest to me today as sound? Will it be in birdsong? Will it be in the voice of someone trying to help me? Can I channel that through my own voice? It's a beautiful practice. And I often think at times when I'm getting a little limp, perhaps, in my own spiritual efforts, that if I can just take one of those and hang on to it and look for it around me, it brings me into attunement with God's grace, which is what we are trying to do. In the end, the opportunity, the ability to rise, even to go into samadhi, comes from attuning ourselves to higher consciousness and to God's grace. Certainly love is a beautiful aspect, and the more we try to feel that within, the more we share it with others, the more we find ourselves blessed. Another thing that I was thinking as I was considering this week is that sometimes we think, well, who am I, But Swami Kriyananda said that as we come to the end of our journey, each of us will have lived a journey, a story more thrilling, more amazing, than any story we could read in a book, and that we've been everything, we've done everything. And we've come now, those sitting in this room and those online who are interested in these things, we're coming towards the end of that journey. But as we keep in mind our potential and that of others around us, one of the things I love about Ananda, both here and in every Ananda community that I've gone to, and in our virtual community too, is how people reinforce that for each other, how people lift each other up, how people affirm each other's goodness, each other's potential, each other's light, through our words, through the way we talk about each other. Just going back to my friend Janaki Devi, she served with me at East West Bookshop in Seattle for some time, and I just remember anytime the energy got a little, where somebody might say something about another person, she had this automatic response to say something positive about them. I don't even know that she knew she was doing it, but I took a great lesson from her, to cultivate that kind of open-hearted positivity. But what I was starting to say, and what I meant to say towards the beginning of this talk, is I had an experience in Seattle some years ago, and it was while doing a Sunday service just beforehand. There was a woman in our congregation. People didn't think of her as anything special. In fact, she was a bit of a character, as some of us in Ananda can tend to be. But I had befriended her and gone to visit her and gotten kind of close to her. And she was a woman who was later in years and went into a care facility at one point and then came out and was living at home. And then I heard, just as I was walking in the door to do our meditation, someone tapped me on the shoulder and said, "I thought you'd like to know that she just left her body." And it was, quite impactful. I dedicated that meditation to her, and I did the meditation sort of through tears, and then rallied to do the talk. But what happened afterwards kind of amazed me. I went for a walk in this little nearby town. And I don't know, maybe this won't be amazing to you, but everywhere I looked, this particular town, it's called Edmonds, they have beautiful flowers around and things like that. But everywhere I went, everything was vibrant with light. It was actually pulsating with this radiant, vibrant light. And I had been kind of talking to her inside and trying to bless her passage, and I understood that it was her and her energy, and it just stopped me short. And it made me realize anew and in a deeper way that we are all that. So even those of us who think, who am I? And who identify maybe with our faults, that is in you. That is who you truly are. I remember Swami Kriyananda talking about his father, who was not a particularly spiritual person. He was a good man, but a very person very much, what would you call it, grounded on this physical plane, who wasn't even so much in favor of what Swami did with his life. But when he left his body, Swami Kriyananda said he could feel the soul's majesty, could feel the vibrancy of his soul. And that's what we can tune into. One of the best ways that we can do that, the reading, the affirmation actually says, the joy and perfection of the universe await discovery within my inner being, I think is the way it goes. But it's a beautiful affirmation. We can tend to, as the reading says, get sort of scattered and sort of enmeshed in our day-to-day activities and start to invest our identity, our attention, our desires in those activities in a very prosaic way. But when we remember to go back inside, we feel, just as we've all felt, there's probably not a person in this room that hasn't had a meditation where, and especially sometimes when we first start, on the path of meditation, we have a meditation, we feel a sense of God's peace in us, and we think, oh, that's who I am. This is who I am. And we can go back into meditation each day and reclaim that. I've been trying, this is something I started doing in the lead up to Christmas as a sort of a promise to God, to try and deepen my meditation somehow. And I didn't know how to go about it because I was feeling I was so scattered somehow, and I would bring so much of my work and my concerns into my meditation. But I decided that at least I could go to some long meditations, and within that 3 hours I would have some good time. So I started going to 1 or 2 3-hour meditations a week, and I highly recommend it, because I did find that in that meditation, after I did some battle with the conscious mind and the subconscious for a while, that I was able to tap into that deeper part of myself and feel the truth of what Yogananda says. The soul loves to meditate. Ego, not so much, but the soul, yes. And I could tap into that deep stillness that provides a doorway into the light. I could sit and go into that light, consciously gaze at it and feel the presence of that light and how it could change me. I think the final thing that I want to, there's so much that could be said. It's such a beautiful topic. I want to just talk for a few minutes about this, the magnetism and cultivating the desire for God. It says in the reading that those who seek God, I forget exactly the way, seek God with pure motives, find Him dwelling in their hearts. And what does that mean, seek God with pure motives? Well, until we get to the very end, our motives might not be super pure. Maybe we want the peace of meditation, or maybe we want to get a little something out of our meditation. But as we start to grow, and as we cultivate what someone else in this room, who I always want to thank when I think of this in a study group, she said, I'm trying to cultivate the yearning for God. And that just sparked in my heart to cultivate that yearning, to make it a part of our day and a part of every activity, to think, where are you, God? Where are you in this? Where are you in this conflict? Where are you in this challenge that I'm having now? I want to feel you. I want to know you. As we cultivate that over time, that becomes the desire that becomes uppermost in our hearts and minds. And Yogananda says, this is what brings samadhi to us, enlargement through yoga practices, but that the seekers, I forget the exact words now, desire for God begins to pull at God and brings that experience. And I wanted to also just say that the more that we can share this light as we feel it, we're living in a world right now that is fractured, that is negative, and we each have the ability to be a channel for light. Yogananda says the instrument is blessed by that which flows through it. And I think especially because this is something we all can do. Pray. Pray for people. If you read something or see something in the news, you have a negative reaction, pray for that person. Pray for that situation. Perfect love casts out fear, Jesus said. As we bring the energy up to the heart and pray from the heart, allowing ourselves to be used as a channel, not only do we bring aid and help to the world, the deepest kind, the kind that can reach people everywhere, but we ourselves are blessed to experience it even more. So I think I've spoken long enough, and I just want to end with a reading from Whispers from Eternity. This is the prayer at dawn. It may not seem to relate, so I might say a few more words afterwards, but this is something about bathing ourselves in that light, and it's one of my favorites. I have it memorized, but up here I thought it'd be better if I read it. With the opening, and I encourage you to close your eyes and feel this as God's sort of message to you. With the opening of the earliest dawn and the lotus buds, my soul softly opens in prayer to receive thy light. Bathe each petal of my mind with thy radiant rays. I saturate myself with the perfume of thy presence, and I wait to waft with the breeze the aroma of thy message of love to all. Bless me that with the spreading dawn I may spread thy love everywhere. Bless me that with the awakening dawn I may awaken all souls with my own and bring them to thee. God bless us, everyone.
Come children, wake up, it's morning, and oh brother's son just shook his finger to tell you the new day's begun. Open your window and listen to the summer air, for melody, melody is everywhere. Melody, melody is everywhere. The world is waiting to tell you of a million things. The shout of daybreak, the flutter of a robin's wings. Come out and listen, there's magic for us all to share. For melody, melody is everywhere. Melody, melody is everywhere. God made all children from laughter, so don't close your heart. The song of dawn won't be finished till you've sung your part. This world's a temple, and morning is a time of prayer, when melody, melody is everywhere. Melody, melody is everywhere.
Thank you to all of our donors for making it possible to share these videos and keep this channel ad-free. If you feel inspired to donate, visit ananda.org/give.